Oh, you caught me. No.
From now on, Yoko's in charge of counting us down. Yoko and Yoko alone.
I make the rules. The rules are,
He's the director,
Yoko,
sir.
you're in charge of counting it down. I make it. I mean, you know what, Yoko? No, he has to count himself.
It's like
down.
La La
Punishment.
Land, where he's like, yeah, you made
Punishment.
the choice, but I sign off on it.
Yeah, exactly. They worship everything and praise nothing, something along those lines, yada, yada, pichikaka. All right, let's do this. I got my Lysol. I got my phone. What else do
We're
I
in a
have?
virtual room.
I got yarn.
Virtual.
I got yarn. Okay.
Be funny.
Start.
Be funny. Director, you're on.
Welcome to the WatchTower podcast.
Put him back in the waiting room.
No.
Welcome back to the WatchTower podcast, a new podcast on the Towercast Network. If you haven't already, make sure to check us out on Instagram. That's where we'll be putting all the news for the podcast, for this and the Towercast. Yeah, look at Yokomoto. If you're looking at this on YouTube or Facebook, you clearly see Yokomoto.
Wow.
Demonstrating.
What is this?
The podcast.
Oh, there.
Hey, look at that. Look at it. Yeah, I love it.
Ooh,
so
whoa.
today we have a very special episode. We
Spicy.
have a very exciting episode. I think this film was a great choice. It's actually Yokomoto's choice. But before I introduce the film, I'd like to introduce my lovely panel. We have Mr. Cristin Yokomoto Medina.
Well, hello, fellas and fillets.
Our Towercast director, Michael DeLo.
I don't know what I'm doing.
And we don't have John Eric Oster today. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it to the recording today.
Yes.
However, and we are going to miss him, but we have Mr. Austin Young kind of filling in for him. He's going to be participating in more conversation here. Can you believe it?
Oh my goodness.
Finally, the voice of God in our hands.
I know, seriously.
The man, the
Hi.
myth, Austin, the legend.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Austin Young.
Oh, I thought he was going to introduce me with his Oscar voice.
Please do it. Do it.
Nominated 3 times, rejected 18 times, and here live on the Towercast.
WatchTower.
Monsieur Austin Young. Sorry,
Hello,
I spaced
howdy.
out so much.
Cool. So, hey,
Watch
before
Tower
we
and
introduce the
Towercast.
film, I was on an interview today, and it was pointed out to me something that I really appreciate. I was talking to Chuck Horak today, and by the time this episode releases, the radio show will be out already. But you can check out On Film on anywhere you can find podcasts, because they kind of have a podcast format after they air the show.
Wait, didn't you say it was coming out at the end of the week?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, by the time this episode drops, you can find the actual podcast recording elsewhere. Like, it's not going to be live on the air, but you can find it afterwards. But anyways, I was talking to him, and he was talking about our podcast, and he pointed something out that I wanted to mention here because I really appreciate what he said. We've all said that when it comes to cinema, we miss going to the movies and then talking to our friends about it. And he said, look, he's like, when I listen to the WatchTower, it's exactly that. It feels like you're on the patio of Alamo Draft House, having a beer, having, some snacks or whatever with your friends, and you're just talking about what happened in the movie. He's like, so I really love that format. And I think that's what we've always been going for, is just us having a good little chat about cinema amongst friends. So, shout out to Chuck Horak for saying that, and I agree. This is what this podcast is all about, the WatchTower podcast. So, thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about a new film, Golden Globe winning film.
It did win, right?
They won. They won this year. They won as of this recording last Saturday, last Sunday.
Yeah.
We're talking about Palm Springs. We're talking about 2020. Palm Springs with Andy Samberg, Cristin Milioti, and J.K. Simmons, amongst a bigger cast that were all pretty fantastic. This was Yokomoto's choice. I'm going to go on a whim and think we've all seen this film for the first time because it just came out.
Yeah.
But it was great, man. It was fun, and it took this really cool, weird turn. I want to kind of compare this film to films like that I've seen recently, like Sorry to Bother You, like Under the Silver Lake, kind of in that same tone of like, it starts off like this happy-go-lucky type of film, and then it takes this crazy turn that you're like, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
First thoughts, guys. Let's go around the room. What do you guys think about Palm Springs upon this viewing?
Well,
It was
let
great.
me preface a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted you guys to watch this without checking anything. No
Yeah.
trailers, no information, no nothing.
And
Like even when I was putting up the Tower Crown, like I didn't even want to give you the genre of what I was gonna do the Tower
Right.
Crown on.
Right.
Just because, especially for the specific thing of, let's see if you guys get where it's going at the beginning.
Right.
So I don't know if you guys did my suggestion or not.
I did. You know, the only buzz, I guess the only thing I had myself to base on, Yoko, was the fact that, so I had heard of awards buzz from the Critics' Choice Awards. If I'm not mistaken, I didn't really watch the whole program, but Kevin Smith was like co-hosting the Critics' Choice Awards. And I started hearing like it won some awards. I'm like, what? Like this? Like, I had heard about it, but it didn't make sense to me. And that piqued my curiosity, but I didn't really extensively watch trailers or anything like that. I had just kind of seen posters.
Yeah. And I mean, the way it was marketed, at least to me, because the only really notion of it I had was just seeing it recommended on Hulu. And I mean, we all fall into the trap that we're kind of in this buzz of like, there's this movie that I've been wanting to watch and it's on your list. Right. So any other movie that's kind of like advertised to you, like right now, unless it's getting a lot of buzz, it kind of goes under the radar because there's so many other things I'm trying to like watch and all that. So when you recommended it, I mean, for a minute, I was kind of thinking like, oh, cool. He's recommending like it's like a break film. It's just a fun little comedy to kind of like toss up what we've been doing. And I really love the way that it kind of like subverted my expectations and was trying to be more than what it appeared with. I mean, like, I think Andy Samberg is the comedy guy of right now that, when you see him in films, you're like, oh, he's going to be the Mr. Funny Man guy. And you don't see him going beyond those kind of roles.
Right.
So
it's the first thing I noticed about this one.
Yeah. That you could see he was definitely going for something that was a lot more not serious.
It was like what Adam Sandler did in Uncut Gems. Like it's a comedic role in its foundation, but it's so much more serious. Like something's up with him, and mentally
you know what? I really appreciated that. I appreciate films that are willing to kind of take either cast members or a directorial, like kind of do something different where you are coming in with an expectation, but then they know that they're going to completely change that. Like I thought it was really good. Also, I guess before we kind of continue talking, and I didn't want to spoil too much into the genre, if you haven't already seen the film, we haven't put it this advisory much, but if you haven't already seen this film, go see it and then come back here because it'll be a fun conversation.
For on Hulu. It's on Hulu right now.
So for those who have left, I guess just to kind of add in, I love that it took a film that we've seen so many times, and I mean the Groundhog Day premise of just looping the time loop. I mean, there's films that have done it, like I know, like Happy Death Day did it, and they were trying to be cute about it, and that film was like a fun film. I mean, but it didn't feel like it had some meat to it, where this one felt like it had so much more.
It's a limited. I feel like it's a limited genre. I would say that the time loop film is a genre, but you can only go so far with it. And this film really did take it to an original form.
Man, the very, like, I don't want to get too much into because I know everybody else got like stuff to say, but the way that they the female character, how she was just like, wait a minute, maybe an act of good will get us out of here, and he's just like, yeah. Maybe, and then like it just repeats itself, and I was like, no, we're stuck.
For it to be, and I love that I wasn't trying so hard because it's it's a 90-minute film, or 90 and change. So it could have taken this like forceful, like maybe we should try this, maybe we should try that, maybe we should try this, but it didn't. It didn't edge on that. It didn't like pry that technique. So I respected that. I respected that I wasn't trying so hard. It was a relatively easy watch. And I do have to correct myself because you're right, Yoko. It didn't win, but it was nominated for 2 awards. It was nominated for Golden Globes for Best Musical or Comedy and for acting for Andy Samberg.
And it wasn't nominated for a screenplay as well, or
no? I thought it was.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. Maybe I was thinking of the Critics' Choice Awards. I think I was thinking of the Critics' Choice Awards.
Well, Austin, what were your kind of first impressions? Also watching the film with fresh eyes.
It was good.
Austin, you're on camera. You have to give us more.
Yep.
Sorry.
All right, pal.
I'm sorry. I'm not talking to the Lao. Just
Little
Somebody else
scruffle
has
at the
to
beginning.
ask you.
yeah. Somebody else has to
Austin,
ask me.
tell me, please tell me. What did you think about the movie?
Oh, Yokomoto, it was great, man. Definitely, it was something that like you guys are bringing about Andy Samberg, and I'm trying to remember what I've seen him in recently, but I've kind of seen. Yes, put that beanie over your head. Continue doing it. His kind of expanded a bit more into not necessarily drama, but like the more serious roles recently.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where you've seen him in stuff like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, or you really want to go back, seeing him like Lonely Island and all that. So you kind of associate him with the comedy stuff, but I think this is really going to help him break out into stuff that isn't so much comedic. And a lot of people haven't seen him in those more serious roles and might start taking him more serious now.
I think so too. I think it's a bridge film. I think it's his bridge into getting to more serious stuff. What about you?
I think it's so great that usually like Andy Samberg, like I've always followed him with Lonely Island. Like I even bought a couple of their CDs, and then like we always see them as this like very goofy Adam Sandler type thing characters and on basically all his stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then on this one, you actually see him more as a well-rounded character.
Yeah.
He's not goofy, but he is level-headed. He enjoys life. He's enjoying the situation he's living in.
And then also, I mean, the times that he is kind of goofy or he is a little bit more out there and expressive. Oh, poor doggy. The times that he is a little bit more expressive and everything, it's because you hear that backstory that he's been in this for ages. It hasn't changed in ages. He's even kind of forgotten a little bit about who he was, in the past. But it made his character, like you said, it had so much more depth than him just being like, I'm a goofy character who does goofy things. It's like they really wanted to kind of dispel all that early on in the film. They wanted to dispel that this.
It was that type of approach where, well, first of all, when it comes to Lonely Island, I don't know if you guys noticed the tag in the beginning. His production company, the Lonely Island Classics, and it's kind of like this homage or like off-brand Sony Classics logo.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really really great. So he's obviously been doing a lot more producing. Recently, I watched Andy Samberg. I rewatched Popstar. It was on cable, and I was like, okay. And it's so good. I've always said that. Like ever since I watched Popstar the first time, it's such a good film. It's a good mockumentary. It's in the vein of like This Is Spinal Tap and that type of thing. So it's really fun. But I haven't seen him in something like this, and I think when you harp on, I mean, look, Adam Sandler gets a bad rap. A lot of these comedic actors, like Vince Vaughn, when he starts doing serious roles, everybody's like, "Why? Stick to your lane, dude." Like Will Ferrell is a perfect example. If you've seen Will Ferrell in serious roles, like if you've seen him in Everything Must Go. He's fantastic. He's a fantastic dramatic actor, and people don't really pay attention to that. And I think Andy Samberg is of that school now.
Yeah.
I think in this particular film, they didn't harp on the comedic. They didn't depend on him to be the comedic relief necessarily. He was just like, you can tell this character has so many more layers, and he's been here for a while. He's been trapped in this time loop for a while, and he's kind of dealing with those emotions and being by himself. And it was so good. I thought his performance was standout. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially what I like is that we kind of have more of a surprise switch of main character with Milioti when she comes into the time loop. Then it's basically we're all seeing the whole movie now from her eyes mostly. And I think that gives us that chance. Yeah.
She's becoming a favorite. I think Cristin Milioti. Look, my favorite sitcom of all time is How I Met Your Mother, and she plays the mother. She plays the title character in the last couple of seasons. But then I saw her in Scorsese's Wolf of Wall Street, and I was like, "What the hell is this? She's great. She's actually breaking out." And I saw her in this, and I was telling Austin, I think I love her more in this than I did in Wolf of Wall Street. She's really good in this because the original Bombshell is. Oh wait, she's cursing. I've never heard her curse before, And then you get used to it, and it's like, oh wow, she's got some depth. Like, I think she won for best breakout star for the Critics' Choice Awards or something like that. At least for cinema, she's making this transition into films, and she's really good in this, man. I really loved her character in this.
And just on both actors' sides, I really wish we had Castro here to kind of like break it down, but I really felt like, it took these two characters that, okay, so I guess one of the biggest things I noticed about the film, and I really appreciated, is that it took the whole time loop thing, but though society and everything around them is not changing, all the story is really happening internally. It's the two characters kind of growing, developing, and going through this wide range of emotions. And I think each actor just really pulled it out of the park. You know, like
it's the best part. It's the best part of the film. I have to agree with you there, Bilal, because look, even J.K. Simmons' role, like after Whiplash, you expect J.K. to do these serious, award-winning films. And I love that he hasn't really done that. I mean, you still see him in State Farm commercials, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So I love that he didn't break out of that. Like he didn't take that route. I love that it seems like he's doing. Yeah. Well, look, it seems like he's just doing anything he wants. He played the character piece in La La Land, and he played the character piece in this. And I love that he's maintaining his position of being Juno's dad. Because when you see Juno, he's basically kind of playing the same character in this film, with the exception of being a badass that shoots people with arrows. But
murderer.
But I think it's such a fun role, and then you get to see him as a suburban dad in the backyard with the kids, and I thought it was terrific.
On like a writing front, how it's such a subtle thing. It could have been a character actor who just or a character piece where he shows up, he plays a certain persona, kind of like that guy who is trying to hook up with the main girl at the beginning. I forget what the actor's name is, but he voices like Batman and all that. Damn, I can't remember that guy's name.
Adam West? Wait.
No. Okay, there's this guy. He's the drunk one at the beginning. They even convince him to like walk in with a blindfold on the wife that's cheating and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, the dude with the red hair.
Yeah. Him. Well, anyway, like they could have played off his character like that, where it's just this one joke, he has a persona, that's it, it stays the same way. But then in the background, that whole development of like the first time we see his character being introduced, it's in a flashback and he says, marriage is just like a black hole and all that. And then at the end, he gets his own satisfaction of saying like, I realized that like, this is what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to be enjoying this and like, look at like my kids watering a turd. Like it's beautiful. It's great. And like, he could have been just played off as some random character, but they made this subtle development and everybody had their own little arc. I just thought it was written really well, on top of how everybody was like performing.
That's why I was surprised. I was surprised when you said that it didn't end up nominated for the screenplay, because the one thing that really got me from this movie was the screenplay. The screenplay is just so damn well crafted.
Yeah. I think as filmmakers, or as as film lovers, we're I don't know about you guys. On my experience, I was waiting for this film to fail. Like I was waiting for it to fail me. I was waiting to see where it was gonna take the generic cliche move, or where it was gonna, but it didn't. It really didn't. Its originality was pretty great.
Yeah, that beginning part where she's like, "Oh, if I do something kind like that, that'll change everything." Mm-hmm. The way that they were so deliberate in telling everybody, if you think it's one of those films. Right. It's not, and then just getting past that.
They kind of broke the fourth wall. One of my favorite pieces of dialogue in the film is when they were shitting on the romantic, grammatically incorrect monologue at the end.
Oh yeah,
you guys caught that, where he's like, no, not that's just an exclamation point. Yeah, I know, but I didn't really want to be on the nose about it.
The run-up sentence.
Yeah. The run-up sentence. So it was good. Like those little pieces were made it original. Here's the interesting part. Here's the crazy part. First-time director, at least on a major motion picture. First-time writer. They hadn't really done anything big before this. They were indie brats, so they did shorts that kind of went to festivals. But this is the guy, if I'm not mistaken, from what I can see, this was his first feature film. The director's name is Max Barbakow, and the writer is Andy Ciara. And this is the first thing they've done. So kudos to them, man. This is quite damn impressive for it to be their first feature film.
To get any buzz whatsoever and to put something together that's so good, it feels original. It's amazing how they took a concept that, there's films that have played off it, there's TV shows that have parodied it, this whole notion of being stuck in a time loop and you got to figure out what to do so you can get out of it.
Well, Chuck and I were actually talking about that today, because what I think is interesting about the acquisition of this film, look, so the film first premiered at Sundance in January of 2020. So it was a Sundance picture, very indie. I mean, look, the budget for this film was $5 million. You know, $5 million, and it I know the box office obviously didn't really do much because it went to streaming. But what I think is interesting about the acquisition is it was distributed by Neon, which, you know, Chuck and I were talking about today. That Neon is part of that conversation of like, it's one of the A24s, it's one of the Blumhouse, it's one of the, you know, it's doing that type of release, like that type of acquisitions for films. So they haven't really done a ton, but Neon, for instance, you'll know them from distributing Parasite. And they have kind of an overall with Hulu. So that's why Parasite went to Hulu right after its kind of release. And they're of that kind of school. And I think it's so terrific for these little companies to be taking over films like this. Again, low budget, low risk, first time director, but this shit was fantastic. And, you know, it's the right people crafted it for its distribution. So I have to applaud that because I think they're doing amazing things. We've been talking about A24 and what they're doing and stuff. And I just think it's fantastic, man. I want to work with one of these companies one day. This is kind of my dream is to work with one of these companies at some point.
Yeah. Something talking about the acquisition. What was surprising because I saw this movie when it came out.
Okay.
So what I remember hearing was that so it got bought like early in the year.
Yeah.
And
well, it probably
it
at Sundance because Sundance is in January, so it probably got bought at Sundance, maybe.
Yeah. No, yeah, it did, and it was gonna have a theatrical release like more towards the summer.
Right.
But the thing is that then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
But what was so surprising for me was that they decided almost instantly, because in March, at middle of March, that's when they put this movie on Hulu.
Right.
And which I actually think was good for them, because honestly, I do believe that if this movie would have gone to theatrical release, I think, especially when they were planning to put it, I think it would. Yeah, it would be just like kind of like the.
I agree. Unless they curated. I feel like this is the type of film. By the way, I have to mention, I'm so sad today to hear the news about Alamo Drafthouse is filing for bankruptcy.
Oh yeah,
really?
Yeah, but thankfully, like at least the locations in El Paso aren't being affected because the locations in El Paso are franchised, so they're not really owned by the parent Alamo. So it's the parent Alamo that's filing for bankruptcy, and 2 of their Texas locations are being closed.
Oh, that's so sad.
So it's sad because I was hoping they were going to be the last one down the line, and they kind of are. Cinemark's already done it, and AMC's filing for bankruptcy, and everybody's going down the line. But anyways, I only mention that because I feel like Palm Springs. I agree with you, Yoko. I think it would have bombed at Cinemark, but I think if they would have curated it at like Alamos and at Flicks, I think that's where it has its audience.
Yes, this would be kind of an Alamo darling. Like they would be heavily promoted by them.
I also feel like this is with the cast. Like Andy Samberg. I feel like especially for like a summer flick, there's a bunch of people that want just a good comedy that they can go and see, and it's a good date night movie. And then I think this would have gotten the right buzz after people had seen it. I think Andy Samberg would have been the reason a lot of people would have came in.
Yeah,
because they're looking for that nice kind of fun comedy.
Here's the interesting thing about the date night complex is let me put it to you in my perspective with my wife. Right, I told Sandra, listen, I gotta watch this movie for the podcast. I haven't seen it yet. Usually, when I ask Sandra if she wants to see a movie, I send her the trailer. And I'm like, hey, let me know if this will interest you, so you can watch it with me. If not, so I can just watch it on my own. And she watched it and she was like, hey, yeah, that looks pretty cool. It looks like a fun little date night movie. And then I had to tell her, because if I don't tell these things to my wife, she'll get mad at me. I told her, hey, I've heard it takes this really weird sci-fi twist. So, I don't want you to be disappointed. And she was like, okay, yeah, you're right. I don't want to watch it if it's going to do that, because then it'll piss me off. She couldn't stand like what happened in Sorry to Bother You. Mm-hmm. Like that weird Wi-Fi sci-fi twist that it took. Yeah, the Wi-Fi twist. No, but it's that type of thing. So I feel like that would contribute to the bombing. Don't you think, though? Like I feel like that would contribute to like it was weird. It took this weird turn at the end.
Okay. They're
for like, the general audience.
No, I don't think it took. Okay, It took a weird turn.
It didn't take a weird turn. I don't think it did a weird turn.
Here's what it would have done. Here's what it would have done. And this is where it would have been like 50-50 on the audience going. I think the right audience that would have appreciated it wouldn't have gone at first, but they would have been reeled in slowly because advertising, the way it works now is that if a movie wants to get promoted, they basically put the whole movie out in a trailer. And then,
I
they bring
hate
people in.
I hate when they do that.
They would have done what they've done with every single other comedy, which is they put all the funny bits in at the beginning.
Right.
It would have been marketed like a comedy. People would have seen it. It held up enough that I think people would have came back to it, though. I mean,
Sure.
it's one of those that I think for anybody who was going in and maybe watching it like a comedy, there was something just more to it. But it never was too much to make you feel like, no, I can't really enjoy this. It's not.
I think you're
funny
right.
anymore, you know?
I think you really have it on the nose. I think people like us, like cinema lovers, would be like, nah, it just looks like another cheesy rom-com. It has Andy Samberg, but it looks kind of weird. I'm not going to watch it. And then we discover it later, and it's like, holy shit. But for general audience members, they'd probably go in thinking, okay, yeah, it's a fun date night, fun Saturday night movie.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, okay.
But
right.
it was crafted so well. It like it's weird to kind of phrase, but I really felt held during the film when it was kind of like, okay, here are the funny bits. And, like you start off the film and Andy Samberg's being Andy Samberg and he's being a bit eccentric and he's kind of like this really smooth dude. And you're kind of like, okay, it's one of those that's not really realistic. Like he's just kind of like a smooth guy, just kind of cruising his way, grabbing drinks. And it seems like he has all the answers.
Sure.
Then it makes sense to you a little while later and you're like, oh, okay, it's not trying to be this eccentric comedy. It's trying to say something. And then it's kind of
like actually exactly the reason why I didn't want you guys to know anything about the movie, because I wanted to hear about how you guys would react to that first scene when basically Andy Samberg is just like the life of the party, like knowing exactly what everything's gonna happen, and how you guys would take like, hey, wait.
I gotta tell you that particular scene threw me a little bit. I don't know if it's just me, but it didn't throw me the way it threw Cristin Miliotti's character. It threw me like, why is she still being so on the nose about it? Like, because her reactions were like, why is he being weird? And I was like, well, I get it. You don't have to try that hard. Like, I get it. I get what you're.
But don't you feel like it took some of the things that would have seemed like an eccentric comedy and brought it back to reality in some sense? Like, I mean, Andy Samberg's character being eccentric to then, I've done this a million times and I'm just trying to find a way to enjoy it. And then her character being so reserved and just so unreceptive to his character at first.
No, listen, the meet cute I thought was original. The meet cute was original. The meet cute was great. The falling in love montage was great. I think that all of those aspects of it has in terms of a traditional kind of rom-com. I think it attacked it very, very, very originally, and I love it. I'm not bashing on those scenes. In fact, and then those Andy Samberg moments, like when he says, I'm the Antichrist or whatever with the earthquake or whatever. I was kind of like, that moment was like, wait, what? It's going to take that type of turn? I was literally like that.
And then it was like, I'm just screwing with you.
I'm just screwing with you. This happens every day. We're in the time loop. There's the cave, blah, blah, blah. So it opens up the cave. But so I like those moments. I think again, the approach of the film was fantastic. The approach of the film was great. The meet cute and all the rom-com stuff was great because I believed it. I believe that look, what's important to note about these characters and this character development is they're both broken characters. And that's what we have to respect about the character dynamic, because especially her, she sleeps with her sister's fiance the day before the wedding. And then Andy Samberg's very mysterious, but he's kind of a fuck up. He doesn't want to go back to life because something's up. The fact that she's been married for 2 years, these broken characteristics are what attracted me the most about this kind of rom-com, offset rom-com,
How did you feel towards the idea, and this goes for everybody, towards the idea that really the characters, so much of the development was, I guess, kind of contained within that night, and it almost really didn't matter what they did beforehand. It connected to a way where you felt like every person could have gone through this experience if they were stuck in the same situation. Like, I felt like there was enough general descriptors of them where then it was kind of like the existential dread of going to your sister's wedding, if that kind of makes sense, where then anybody could have really been placed in it. And I felt like that helped me connect more with the film, but I don't know if you guys got those kind of vibes from it.
I think what was relatable was the fact that it felt like a very California wedding, and it felt like these characters weren't part of that crowd. Obviously, they wanted, they
But-
hate these people to a certain degree, even their family or whatever.
Weren't they part of that crowd? I mean, you look at like Samberg's character and his girlfriend. At some point in time, they had to have been right for each other.
Well, that's the question, though, right? That's the question.
I don't even think so.
Yeah, that's one of my point. Like,
no,
that's the question. The question is, did he get sick of her because of the time loop, or has he been sick of her because of since before the wedding?
No, I don't. You know what? I honestly feel it's one of those things that he seems like somebody who's kind of like Plato's allegory of the cave, has escaped and has seen more and is now coming to terms with what he knows.
Sure.
Like,
you know what moment solidified your theory for me though a little bit, Dalal, is when he says they're eating at the food truck or whatever, and he says, "Hey, so it's getting pretty, it's getting pretty dark. We should start heading back to the party, no?" And Milioti's character is like, "What? No, why? What for? What the hell?" And he's like, "Well, good food, dancing, people, love, like it's already in his thing. Like I have to go back to that party to get that human interaction, to get some good food, whatever he can't get outside of this one party." So I think that kind of solidified that a little bit for me. Like, well, these are shitty people, but at least I can get a good meal and some dancing out of it or whatever,
Yeah. And I just feel like it seems so much like whoever he was is completely different. At least my theory on it is completely different to who he is now. And they never really divulge how long he's been there. It's just always kind of hinted.
Yeah. That's the only thing that pissed me off a little bit, but in the good way. That's the only thing that got me like, well, I want to know more about him. Who is he? Who was he before this? How did he kind of throw himself in the situation? They gave very little bits of that.
And also the one time you feel like you're gonna get that is the one time he's like, "Man, these are good shrooms," and then it's just like, damn, like I'm not gonna get to know you to that level,
Yeah, I think the character development is just really interesting in that, but I still wanted to know more about his character. It wasn't necessary. It would have added to it, but I wanted to know more.
But I feel like that's where if you would added more onto their characters, each of them individually, then okay, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but then the story would be kind of encapsulated. Like that film would have been its own thing. And I felt like the messages that they were saying, the themes they were trying to explore, was meant to be something way more universal, and I felt it was really trying to connect with audiences in that way, because the way that they kind of break up, like, well, if we're here and it's just the same day and there's no idea of how to get out of here, well, what's the point, And then it's also like, even when Andy Samberg's character kind of talks about the whole concept of like, yeah, we might experience this every day, but being like a sadistical like jerk is not the answer, because even though they don't remember it, you do, and that has to stick with you. And
but that's interesting. That's the interesting fact about it, right? That's the interesting part about it is you do see the character go from point A to point B in their trajectory. I agree with you. I think that's 100% right. Mm-hmm. But then you get this moment of like, obviously, they like to fool you. They did that strategically where they fool you in the sense of, oh, that's how it ends. And then you get to see them in the pool, and you get to see the family come home, in the pool that they were borrowing. Mm-hmm. And then you get to see JK's kind of like, oh, right, he made it too, right? But I think you're right. I think if we saw further into what happened to them, it probably would have ruined the film. I think it probably would have ruined what they were going for. So sorry. So yeah, I think I have to agree with that, but hey, always leave them wanting more, right? They didn't do something wrong. Always leave them run. Leave them.
So I think the thing with about this kind of like development of these two characters is I think it's more like in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
I think it's more about how this is in the end. This is all kind of like a big metaphor of how two people go into a relationship and how they manage a relationship, and everything has to do with the fact that you have two people who sometimes at the beginning may seem like, okay, apart from physical attraction, maybe they don't have anything of value together, but eventually they do, right? They find that thing for them, that mechanic to work with between them. And then so they go through this every day. They follow each other, keep on growing and everything. Eventually, it does get to a point where, okay, are we just gonna keep on doing the same thing every day, or are we gonna actually strive to do something else?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And which is important, especially towards the end, where you have that one point of view from Andy Samberg of, you know what, is that I think we're comfortable here. Why should we even, if we put it in a metaphor kind of way, like why should we even get married? Why should we?
I didn't think about it in those terms.
Build a house,
yeah,
right?
that's.
Yeah, it's a conformity
Cristin
thing, right?
actually
It's a conformity metaphor to it. I like that. I like
also,
that. Also,
I what I like about the way you described it, Yoko, was just this idea of when we see Andy Samberg's character and his girlfriend at the very beginning, you can feel that Andy Samberg's, he's just kind of like, well, this is my girlfriend, we're attracted physically, it's kind of working out, and then he starts like looking around to other people, and even though it was kind of like, oh man, he doesn't care about his girlfriend, he's trying to move away from her, and it's going to be him starting a love story with somebody else.
Yeah.
There was nothing that hinted that it wasn't a realistic scenario of somebody who's just kind of falling out of love with their relationship,
Was it just me? Or was it the older lady at the bar? I forget her name. I forget the character's name. The one he sleeps with, ultimately, one of his sexual encounters.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna be important for some reason, and I'm glad they didn't do it. But I thought she was gonna be like the Chevy Chase and Hot Tub Time Machine type of deal. I thought she was gonna have some type of background to it because she kept looking at them. She kept like studying them, and I'm like, why are you showing me her? Why should I pay attention to her? But I just thought there was going to be a lot of factors like that were going to ultimately dictate what I should think about in the film. And it's funny that we're talking about this because Andy Samberg actually in interviews was saying that they shot multiple endings. They wrote multiple endings in the script, and they shot multiple endings. And basically, they did like a private friends and family screening of all the different endings, and everybody kind of said, "No, this is the one," or "This is the one." And he jokes like, "It might not be perfect, but everyone liked it." So apparently, there's more to it. There's more endings out there.
Because I thought honestly they were just going to end it by saying, "Hey, I guess like we really didn't get out of here. This is going to be it. We're stuck in here." Yeah. But now I know that I love you and you love me, and we're going to make this day work as best as we can. And I thought it was going to take that approach, which was like endearing and sweet, because that's what the whole film kind of lined up towards.
Yeah.
But then it's that kind of extra happy ending that it's sweet and it doesn't feel cliche because you're happy and it doesn't matter what.
Well, I think what's interesting is like, I think what adds to that, I don't know what you guys think, but what adds to that is the fact that even the audience's sense of time starts becoming fuzzy, like the characters. So like I thought, number one, the first question is, how long has Samberg's character been in this loop? Like that's the first question. The next question is, there's this montage of them falling in love, and eventually, both characters do say "I love you," to a real relationship. That's like, well, that takes some time. That takes some, some development. And the montage kind of made it seem, well, it could have been 2 weeks or it could have been 2 years. We don't know how long they were in this loop together, because they were so happy in this loop, So, I think it got to a point where that's where she was like, well, what weighs more, the fact that I wake up to my biggest mistake I've ever made versus the biggest triumph I've had in my life and my love life, what weighs more right now? And that's where she started getting sick of it. It's almost like she felt like she wasn't deserving of Samberg's character because every day she wakes up with this piece of shit who her sister's marrying, I just thought that was so interesting. I think the time loop and the time aspect of it is like, I felt like, how long has it been? Like, what the hell is going on? Like, I want to know how long it's been, how many days, how many hours, how many, I felt like that.
Also, something to kind of add into the conversation. Let's talk about the fact that this was a comedy. I know that that's kind of odd thing to bring up, but we haven't really seen a whole lot of comedies that have played like an award-winning. They're getting traction. They're noted for like screenplays, directors, and this kind of, in a way, I think shows a lot of the potential for comedies and something that it opens up the market. I think there's the market for thinking that all films that are dramas and very serious toned, that's what's going to be these kind of little gems. But this kind of opened it up, kind of showing what more could be out there. And we even talked about it with like Samberg's character, this being a breakout role for him, but still being true to some of that comedy elements that just worked really well for the film.
I think it's perfect
actually,
in that regard. Yeah.
yeah, and kind of to go up on that is that the cool thing is that with this it kind of shows that you could take a tired plot, a tired a gimmick. In this
Yeah.
case, the time loop movie,
Mhm.
which like me and my wife kind of have a sweet spot for those type of movies. Like we've seen a lot of them,
Okay.
and so you take something like that already has this specific formula to it.
Yeah.
Then you just add a little bit, just one more thing. Like in this case, you add the fact that you
Somebody
get
else.
a second character to it, apart from the fact that you already are dropped in the middle of someone who's already been there like for a hell of a long time.
Right. That's a good. Yeah, it's a good point. It's almost like somebody who's in the deserted island, and then somebody gets to the deserted island. Like you get to hear how long they've been there and all this. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and so you add that little thing and you actually explore it.
Right.
Then you can see the so much potential that there could be, where it gets to the point where it is a respected screenplay. It is a respect, a comedy.
It feels
especially.
so hard to do something original, and I think
Yeah.
us as people who are also trying to write stories and make stories. I went through the experience with like Carlos where I was showing him my script and like we were talking about it, and then I think like a day before or a day later another film came out and it had a very similar premise or something like that. And it was just like great.
I think I sent it to you, like I was like, hey.
Yeah, you're like, hey, this sounds exactly like what you have, and it's
like don't mean to discourage you. You should still finish it, but the fact of the matter is, there's nothing original anymore in the sense of like, as a writer, I don't think you should beat yourself up like that. You should write what you want to write and tell the story you want to tell. Everything to a certain degree, like cinema's only 100 years old, 120 years old. So, I don't think we should beat ourselves up as creatives. I think anything is, to a certain degree, is original. I've said this before. The guy we admire so much, Tarantino, doesn't shy away from the fact that he steals from everything and everybody. So I think in terms of originality,
how you do it.
Yeah, it's how you do it. You make it your own as a storyteller, right? And that's that. To your point, though, like with your scripts, I was like, dude, there may be something out, but you're doing something different. Like it's your thing. It's not exactly. So I think Palm Springs, in terms of the formula, succeeded in that regard. And it's tough. It's like I applaud this writer and this director because, like you said, there's nothing original, but at the same time, you're taking a formula of a type of film that already exists. I could probably name 5 to 10 of these films at most, because it's tough to even get into this headspace of a time loop. Look, now we've seen 200 time travel films, but time loop films, it's tough, dude. It's tough. So I applaud them for their originality. I think to say, hey, there's a formula here, and they weren't being cheeky about it either. That's what I like. They weren't trying to be cheeky. They weren't saying, oh, like Hot Tub Time Machine. Oh, well, you have until this time, or else. They weren't trying to be cheeky with it. They were being very, very sophisticated. I respect it, dude. I respect what they were trying to do.
How did you feel about the kind of solution to it all, where basically, while she went away to kind of maybe find a way to get out of here, she became a master of quantum physics,
quantum mechanics,
and then she somehow found out that if we blow up at the right place at the right time, then we get out. Like, did that?
I thought it was a little rushed, but
did that feel like a Deus Ex Machina in the sense that it just kind of came in, it was a solution? And
that's what I mean. Like, I feel like it was a little rushed, but if they explored any further into it, it would have become more of a sci-fi film, So I think it's right where it needed to be. I think
happy birthday to you.
Yeah. I mean, look. The only thing that kind of caught me off guard was the fact that she knew exactly how much time there was between, like, their window. And I had never heard them mention that. Maybe I missed it, but I had never heard them mention it anywhere else in the film. So I thought, well, number one, where were you? Number two, how long has it been since they've seen each other? Number three, that's why I say the time thing is important, because she could have been studying this for a year, dude, and she figured it out.
Oh yeah, because she even was zooming with like a scientist, and he's like, I guess you know more than me or something like that. Where it's
I have a weird thing about that scientist that she talks to, that neurophysicist. He is an actual neurophysicist,
Oh, cool.
And he's actually pretty famous, kind of in the film community, because he's actually the consultant for several of the Marvel
is it
movies.
Nolan's guy? Is it Nolan's guy? The same guy that Nolan uses for all of his films?
That I'm not. I don't know. I don't know if that one, but I know that he is a consultant for various Marvel films.
Interesting.
On the quantum aspect.
Well, like quantum physics, yeah, the Ant-Man stuff.
And
That's crazy.
and if you do a lot of YouTube or anything like that, like if you know about Screen Junkies or Fandom Entertainment now, their name is, they also kind of like do a lot of stuff with them too.
Yeah.
So it's just a little quick tidbit.
No, that's cool. That's really cool. But that's what I mean. I think in regards to that, I'm stuck in the middle, man, because I'm glad they didn't do it. But at the same time, I what else could they have done at that point?
You know what? But I think, Yoko, like the point you were bringing up about how if you look at this as a metaphor for a relationship and it being stuck and, you know, nobody really taking that kind of next step in the relationship and just, it's weird. If you explore that, there's so much to talk about. But that was kind of what it wanted itself to be. And I think at the end of the day, that's what the screenplay was supposed to be about, that theme of a relationship, that getting too technical, adding in too many details, you know, trying to work out the quantum mechanics of how they would get in there and out of there.
Yeah.
It would have boggled it down.
It was too fast, but I do think it's that what happened there, especially for it feeling too rushed, was the fact that the whole movie was really condensed. Like you could feel that it was moving fast. It was edited pretty fast.
Yeah.
And I just think it was part of that. A lot of the things that maybe they had planned for it ended up in the editing room.
You know what though? I think that personally, the cool thing about that moment. Look, let me put it to you this way: if you go into like Endgame, right, and you go into like the whole Tony Stark discovers time travel and you know how it really works and right? There's so much pressure in those scenes. There's so much like, oh man, if they don't get this, that's it, dude. Like, there's no coming back from the blip. And that's for every time travel paradox type of time loop movie. But in this particular case, I didn't feel the pressure, and I liked that. Because let me tell you why. In the montage of them falling in love, when they steal the plane and they just fucking crash it, like, I was like, oh, they can do anything, and it's going to reset. Who gives a shit? So I felt like if this didn't work, if they blow themselves up, it's just going to reset. So who cares? Like, it took the pressure off for me. It took the pressure of like, there's so much on the line if this bomb thing doesn't work. I didn't feel that at all. And I think that might have been a good thing.
Yeah, because by taking that pressure off, then you focus on the characters and the internal
story
that goes on, you know?
Yeah,
like
you focus on, are these two going to make it? You know?
Yeah.
I even thought, hey, if it doesn't work out and they get sick of each other, like the line, one's going to live on one side of the map and the other one's going to live on the opposite side of the map. And that's just how it's going to go for them. And that's life from now on. So yeah, I started focusing on, well, I hope these two make it, but you know, they don't. What are they going to do? You know? So yeah, I thought it was particularly interesting.
Okay. So what was your favorite scene, guys? It was like that one scene that you're like, oh man.
Okay. In respects to it being a comedy, what I loved was the one where she's asking like, well, who have you slept with? And then it was like, oh, your dad. And then they cut, they cut to it's like, and then the dad's like, what are we doing here? I don't know. And then it's just
that was good. That was good.
That was such a great break-in thing. Then freaking Samberg just like, oh, you should have seen your face. And I felt like he was saying that to the audience. You know, you're just all there like,
yeah, dude. I was waiting for it because why not? He
yeah, like
they had already opened up that conversation of him having a homosexual relationship with the other characters. So
like, I'm glad I did. Yeah,
I'm glad I did. I'm glad it happened. He was a nice guy. Yeah, that's a good scene. For me, it was the tent scene. It was the tent scene where they kind of the dinosaur scene.
Maybe we should talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene, dude. It was just the perfect. I mean, for my tastes, right? It was this perfect falling in love, but at the same time, it's where it got serious, right? It was where she's asking, or was she flat out lets it out? You know, I was married for 2 years. But it intensifies everything, but at the same time, that's where they're that's where it's kind of like the whole relationship in one, right? That's where they have sex for the first time. That's where they finally kind of let themselves go on that front. They have this romantic moment staring out into the stars and into the desert and the dinosaur stuff. And then they get into the serious nitty gritty. I want to get to know you stuff. So And it shows you exactly who these characters are and who they want to be, right? When it comes to character development, if you don't focus on the want, your whole character's defunct, dude. Like nobody cares about your character anymore. And both of these characters, the want for her was to kind of find a place where she can forgive herself for what she'd been through and what she did this morning. And for him, it was, well, my want is just to be at peace and to stay here and to stay here with somebody, more importantly. I thought it was going to get to a place where we were going to discover, again, I'm always psychoanalyzing these things, and I thought we were going to get to a place where it was discovered that he really did lure her in, into the cave. Like he planned this out where he wanted her to follow her in.
This is not Passenger, sir.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why that movie didn't succeed. But no, but yeah, it's that type of thing. So I'm glad it didn't, and that was my favorite scene for that reason. I think just it's everything you need to know about these characters in this world in that one tent scene.
It is a turning point. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Yoko?
I do have two scenes. Like, well, first of all, like almost every single joke in this movie, I love. I
hit off
well. But yeah, so I had two scenes that kind of go back and forth on my favorites. The one that was immediately following the one that you like, Carlos.
Okay.
Which is her just like freaking out the next day, and Andy Samberg. Well, he's like, we had something special yesterday.
That breaks my heart, dude. That scene breaks my heart.
And that whole cop interaction, that whole scene.
That whole
I thought it was really good. Yeah. And then there's that, and the dance sequence, that whole like montage of them just doing dances, then out of nowhere just going at the bar, and then just pulling it off.
I think for like a serious moment in the film, the next one would be where he's at oh my god, what's the guy's name? Whiplash guy.
JK.
Yeah. When they're at his house and he's just kind of sitting down and he talks about how he was mad at him for just so long, but then he kind of like came to terms with like, it really opened my eyes of like what I was putting you through.
Like and being in the hospital in the ICU really opened my eyes.
But it was kind of this very heartwarming thing of like, there's something to appreciate in every day, and not everybody had seen that,
I think that to your sensibilities, Allow, because you love like Harold and Maude is one of your favorite pictures.
Yeah.
It's that same thing, right?
It was what made me happy, I mean, it felt like it was kind of, you didn't know how it was going to help Samberg's character, especially with her being gone. In fact, if you think about it, that really didn't change his idea of her till like it just convinced him that I need to find that person to love and be with forever and ever. Yeah. But he still wasn't like sold on the idea of like getting out of this reality that he was in, like that
which makes you beg the ultimate question about his character. What is he so afraid of? And we didn't get that question answered. I mean, this guy could have been an accountant, or he could have been a worker at McDonald's, and it wouldn't have mattered. But it's the ultimate question: is why was he so afraid to go back to his previous life, and more importantly, why was he so afraid to go at it alone? So I think it begs these existential questions, which I really like.
And that's where I appreciated the way that the film didn't divulge too much about their universe, but I felt like that put it in the hands of the audience. And those are the kinds of films that, when you can have a conversation about what happened to them and relate it back to you and have the bigger discussions.
Absolutely.
That's, where
it's a mirror, right? It ends up being a mirror of a film where you start thinking, man, like, if I think they made it, then something's wrong with me. If I don't think they made it, something's also wrong with me. Like, what version of happiness do I think these characters deserve? I think that's really cool. I agree with you. Yeah. Well, listen, I think it's a special film. A couple of fun facts to throw out there is the fact that this was the biggest sale of a film at Sundance. It holds the record.
Really? Oh, yeah.
At $17,500,000.69, beating the previous record by 69 cents.
No way.
I think that was I think that was Samberg's doing, dude. Like, all right, I just want, give me 69 cents more and it's yours.
So that way in history, it'll go down as like it won by 69 cents.
Yep. And it even says
at least until the next one.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the biggest sell at Sundance. Again, Neon distributed, Hulu distributed. They have an overall together, but a couple of fun things in terms of the characters that we're talking about. Niles, I always wondered why they were always constantly drinking the same beer, and if you don't care, like you analyze it, like, oh, what's the only beer they have in this time loop, whatever, right? But apparently, the type of beer that they're drinking is Akupara beer. And the Akupara is the turtle that carries the world on its back, according to several cultures and mythology. So when you think about it in terms of like mythology and time and how a turtle is a slow creature, but it's carrying the world on its back, and Andy Samberg's character is kind of having all this pressure, it gets really philosophical, which I thought was a really cool fact. Like, super cool. I didn't analyze that. No, by the way, J.K. Simmons, he appears as Fletcher from Whiplash in one of the montage scenes.
Really?
Apparently, he appears in one scene. He's wearing a black shirt with a whip in one hand.
What?
Yeah. So, like, he's Fletcher. He appears as that character.
Oh my god!
So I got to go back and see that because I didn't catch that either. But I was reading about it. Anyways, I think it's a great film. I think it's a fun little gem. I don't think it's I feel the same way about this film, the same way I kind of felt about Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. Like, it's great. It's not my top. It's not the best thing in the world, but I think it ultimately it shows me as a creative how you can be creative. When it comes to my type of films, it shapes these types of films shape like, oh, okay, that element still exists in indie films.
I think it. Just based off of the directing, based off of the performances from all the actors, I'd be really excited to see what they kind of decide to do next. The director and the writer. Right. I mean, this being their first time tackling something that's feature length, I'd be excited to kind of see what the next project is, because
I agree.
A film like this really shows potential. It shows that there's a lot that they can do comedically, a lot that they can do on a more serious tone. To kind of close off things. Dinosaurs, I guess they're real based off of the last scene. So what's that about, right?
I think it was just this addition to, it's almost like seeing when people say, oh, the shape of the cloud in the sky means you're going to have a so-and-so day, or you know what I mean? I think it's that type of thing. Like, it's probably something they were seeing on their own, but it just added to the fantasy element. I think it was like a fantasy element. Like, we can live in this evergreen, so to speak, and that's not a pun on words. I know it's a desert, but
I think you don't think it has something to do with the fact that it was trying to be kind of cutesy about the whole science fiction. Like, I guess time can be just warped in that way where we can be stuck in like a little bubble. So maybe a dinosaur walked in and now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like that cave could contain. We never see. It's like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, right? We never see what the cave looks like. We never, you know what I mean? We never.
Yeah, it just kind of glows.
Yeah. So I feel like
it is kind of like a birth canal where every time you go in, you birth into a new day.
Yeah. I did notice that. But I think it could be anything. I think that from that cave, a bunch of stuff could happen. It's a supernatural thing. So I don't know. I didn't read too much into it. I took it for what it was. I think the dinosaur thing was just a fantasy.
I thought it was just them being cutesy,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's the dinosaur again.
Yeah,
and I do think that really only one of them saw it, and the other one was seeing something else. But they're like,
man, I'm convinced it's real.
We could.
All right. Well, look again, guys. Check out Palm Springs. We're gonna be, it's about that time, so I know Yokomoto's getting ready for it.
Just my final word on it.
Yeah.
In my case, I have, as I mentioned earlier, I have a sweet spot for time loop movies, and if you also are one of those people, definitely watch this movie. It's charming as hell.
Yeah.
The jokes are awesome. Almost every single joke lands, and just it's great. It's great. I would love to have this to actually buy this movie.
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't think it's on DVD. I think it's only on Hulu. But if there ever was, I will definitely have
pick up that Blu-ray, right? Yeah, I think I agree. I wouldn't mind having this in my collection at all.
It's a great film, and I know I'm going to be probably watching it soon for date night because it just feels like one of those films. It's nice.
I also feel like this is the type of film, Yoko, in terms of what you're saying. I think it's gonna be one of those like special steelbook or like Arrow video or special release. Like I feel like it's gonna be one of those types of Blu-ray releases. So
yeah, especially once we're off of this pandemic era.
yeah,
I think a lot of these movies that we were having throughout and streamings and stuff like that, like they'll have a resurgence on
I agree with you. I mean, look, hey, this is why I keep plugging Criterion, because like The Irishman was a Netflix release and it went to Criterion on Blu-ray. That's how I have the Blu-ray. Parasite
They're
2
doing Mank, right?
With Mank, I think they talked about doing it, but I don't think it's out quite yet. But some of these streaming ones are coming out on Blu-ray that way. So at least through Criterion and through some of these private companies.
Also, a lot of them, kind of like Yoko was mentioning, they were supposed to have a theatrical release, and it's a shame that I think a lot of good films are not going to be experienced in theater, at least for a while, unless like the theater decides to go back. But there's going to be new things coming out.
This film, look, it's been a year since it's been released on Hulu, and in my opinion, I think it's starting to find its audience again. Yeah. So I think because of that, now
I'm glad.
Yeah,
because honestly, like I looked at the film, and it just kind of like was like, okay, a fun comedy, right. Samberg. Ooh, there we go. But I'm really glad you showed it because it just had so much more character to it.
Yeah, thank you, Yoko. This was a good suggestion, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's about that time, Mr. Yokomoto.
About that time.
Ooh, it's about that time. All right. Well, just in case nobody knows right now, we're going to do the Tower Crown. And so on Facebook, we put up a poll to see what your favorite time loop movie is.
Yeah.
And on that poll, we had movies like Edge of Tomorrow.
Such a big buzz when that film came out.
Premature.
Mm-hmm.
Been there.
Groundhog Day.
Of course.
And Happy Death Day. Now, I'm going to confess something before I actually give the results.
Yeah.
The reason I put Premature in this is that, first, I know a lot of people haven't seen this movie, and I actually saw this a while back, and it's actually pretty good. And the reason why I put this is kind of like for me to kind of like give it some promotion. So
people can go and appreciate.
I know nobody has seen this movie.
You know what? It's the only one I haven't seen from the list.
Yeah.
So good.
All right.
Good. Give it some notice.
Yes, and all right. So the results were Groundhog Day against Edge of Tomorrow.
I'm gonna throw this out there, guys. I know usually we talk about this before we get on the air, but I'll happily moderate this one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah?
If I don't moderate, I'd go towards Groundhog Day, but that's just that's me. But yeah.
Hey, whichever you wish. What do you want to do, Michael DeLo?
Yeah.
I'd really like to do Groundhog Day.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll do Edge of Tomorrow.
Okay. So to kick off, do you have a coin or a quarter, something?
Yeah, well, I mean, who wants to go first?
Okay, wait, call it heads or tails.
Yoko, you go first.
I'll do heads. What's
Yoko
up?
goes first.
Damn,
I go first.
Freaking, what president is this? Never mind.
All right,
Russia.
So I'm gonna start this off. I'm gonna give you a little story of what it is. The movie called Edge of Tomorrow, also known as Live, Die, Repeat. Edge of Tomorrow.
That's right. That was the big marketing thing, right? That was on all the posters. Live, Die, Repeat.
In fact, that's on the cover for the DVD. It says Live, Die, Repeat.
I remember that.
Is
this is the film with Emily Blunt, right? It's the film with Emily Blunt and the female lead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were gonna say DeLo?
Oh no, I know that this one went through a bunch of rebrandings. Did it stay with Live, Die, Repeat? Because I thought that's what.
The last one was Live, Die, Repeat. Edge of Tomorrow. This is adapted from a graphic novel called All I Want Is Kill, which I would have loved for it to stay with that, because at the beginning of the production it was actually with that title. But then it went to Edge of Tomorrow to give it more of that action-y thing, because they thought it was going to bring more people in.
Yeah.
Bad thing though is I know it's gonna go against me promoting this movie and all that, but bad thing is that this movie bombed when it came out. But it was mostly because is that nobody knew what the hell to do with this movie.
Yeah.
The marketers didn't know. But the thing is that if you were one of the lucky ones to actually go into the movie and see this movie, first of all, this movie is fucking badass. It is basically like what you think a Call of Duty movie would really be, all with deaths, respawns, and even with it's what do you say with sci-fi equipment, especially with more modern Call of Duty ones. Like it is so cool, and the deaths that sometimes happens to Tom Cruise in this movie, man, they're awesome to watch, especially and like for a PG-13 movie, sometimes they could get even gruesome, where like you see his face being melted off by the blood of this alien. Like, damn, that was pretty cool. But then even better is when their hero, this whole war hero, which was Emily Blunt, when she comes into the picture, damn, is that a awesome, powerful female lead. And especially later on when you discover that she was also in this type of time loop thing. And they function really well with each other, and it's just such an awesome movie. Just if you can, just watch this movie. It is awesome. It is 2 hours, but it's some of the best action 2 hours that you could get.
No, Yoko, please don't. No, let me sit you down. I just made Dilal watch The Departed, which was what 3 hours and change or something.
That was
cool. All right, Dilal, Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. I mean, I feel like it's harder to say that people haven't seen this film. I mean, this one seems like the film that kicked off. I really don't know if it is the loop film was started here. I'm pretty sure there were short stories or somebody came up with it first, because
there was a short story beforehand and then a movie about it. But then this one basically was the catapult.
Yeah, this one really felt like it catapulted it, but then I feel like whenever people are thinking of like the time loop genre and they're thinking of what it normally does, it's always hinted back to this film.
I'm kind of seeing that it looks like there was a couple of films, live action feature films, that were Japanese that kind of kicked off that time loop thing, like in the 80s, 83. Mm-hmm. But at least in American cinema, it seems like Groundhog Day was kind of the big one.
I think this one was taking a theme that, really could have gone anywhere. I think, the whole construction of like you're stuck on the same day, repeating the same thing, it could have taken a very serious tone. It took the same approach as like Palm Springs, that it's kind of comedic and kind of serious at the same time. I think this one kind of sets the precedent, at least for what American audiences would say is like going on in a time film, and also what's supposed to kind of happen. And it does it in this very organic, like if you see it for the first time, very fun way of, okay, you're stuck in a loop. At first, you're trying to fight it. At first, you think that everybody's, messing with your head. Then you think, well, let me use it to my advantage. And then you get sad. And then, you try to kill yourself. And then you're trying to find meaning. Why am I stuck here? Why is all this happening to me? And it seems like this is the film that, before any other film was able to really play with the concept, at least in American audiences, and really explore it, this one was just trying to really break down, bare bones, all the emotions, all the tensions, everything that would happen if you had to repeat the same day over and over and over again. I think Bill Murray's sensibilities as a comedian and as an improv person really came out in this film, and every moment with him just feels like a great funny bit, but tells you a little bit more about his character, and you see this wonderful development of him being just this bitter anchor man who's doing the same thing over and over again every day, to somebody who's trying to live for others and is trying to take the most out of life, taking something that seems so stupid and so insignificant, like scene of a groundhog has its shadow, and making that the center of the universe, at least until the very end. So Yeah, it's a wonderful film that really set the precedent for every other film to come after it. And without this film, I'd argue that there wouldn't be something like Palm Springs that they could kind of piggyback off of, as far as like, I've already tried killing myself. I already tried being mean to people. I already tried taking advantage. Now I'm just going to enjoy life. And I think this is the film that defined the genre, you know,
All right.
for American audiences. We'll say that.
Rebuttal, Yoko, for
Yeah.
Pew pew, shoot you, pew pew.
So, yes, I do have a little bit of a disadvantage here, being that Groundhog Day is kind of like the first of all
film.
the first
you can
big
say it,
movie.
the film. Yeah,
you monster.
the first big film.
yeah. No, the big.
Yeah, the big one.
The big one. Yeah. You can say it. It's okay.
And for it to be remembered, such especially for because Bill Murray, because it helped a lot of the image of Bill Murray, and that's what a lot of people remember fondly of it.
Right.
But the thing is, we go back to the point of how to innovate a concept, and in this occasion was the fact that it took advantage of this video game aesthetic that we now like very much live in, and it really honed in and brought, even for a lot of people don't like Tom Cruise, sadly to admit it, but Tom Cruise is in recent years especially, like he's been this very unique action hero.
I mean, he's on his 8th or 9th Mission Impossible film, which I love, by the way. I love the Mission Impossible
last ones
series.
were actually pretty good.
Ghost Protocol, and yeah, they've been fantastic. I agree.
And in this one, what I like about it, especially if you have that type of mentality of Tom Cruise, is the fact that at the beginning, like he is that asshole that we all think he is. He is. We want to see this prick die.
Sure.
And boy, does he die, and in a lot of awesome ways.
Right.
And I mean, and what I like is that at the beginning, it doesn't shy away from that persona. Like he, at the instant that he was able to give any opportunity to leave, like he took that wide left turn to run out of battle. But the thing is that the fact that you get this image from an actor and a character that you have like just horrible person, and actually transform him, and actually making you care, make a hope, kind of root for him to never even die,
right?
Like even though you know that his whole thing is to die, like you kind of like don't want him to do that anymore, because you see that is actually affecting him, not just because of maybe he's going through pain when he dies, but he's falling in love with this person who he has to see die every single day, every single time. And you see this, and you actually experience it with him.
Okay. Let me throw this question at you guys.
Really good for you.
Yeah. Let's got that going.
Final question.
Let me throw this final question at you guys. In terms of the time loop genre, there's people like Yoko, and I know very few of them, by the way. I don't know a ton of people that love time loop movies, so kudos to you, Yoko, because it is a genre in and of itself. In the time loop genre, it's kind of a twofer, right? Which film is going for timeless? And with that same sentiment, people in your genre, Yoko, people who love time loop films, which one would they put above?
Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying Groundhog Day. End of sentence, period.
Game, set, match.
No, I'll say that people would go towards Groundhog Day because I think it takes the core of time loop films, which says that if you're going to be stuck within the same day, every day, tomorrow's today, yesterday was today, then at the end of the day, it's this human struggle of finding, like, well, what actually can escape time? What does it all mean? What does it matter? Like, why, if I had to repeat this every day, what is the meaning of my existence? Why am I separated from those who can't experience this with me? And Bill Murray's character finding love, finding charity, finding passion for life and the people around him, as opposed to those of just serving himself, is what makes it timeless, because it's showing that that's what a time loop film is supposed to do. It's supposed to look at the human condition and say what actually is there if you were stuck every day. Yeah.
Okay. Yoko?
Okay. So, the thing with the Edge of Tomorrow here,
It's got Tom Cruise.
it's true that it's not as personal. It's not as personal as Groundhog Day is in this aspect, especially with the fact that timeless. I guess I will say Groundhog Day will be more timeless, simply for the fact that it's not a sci-fi movie. Edge of Tomorrow, thanks to the fact that it has sci-fi in it, it could be kind of dated eventually in a couple of years,
Sure.
or looked at in a different way. But the thing is, where I believe that it will matter, especially later on, and if it's not much evident of like in these times, is the fact of how you actually grow to care about the world you live in, and actually grow to try to take care of it, try to save it.
Okay.
And the fact that you get from the person, politician who gives a rat's ass about anybody,
Okay.
and you actually give them to the point where you have them there right in the middle of things and actually learn what the other people are doing and learn from them and actually grow to be one of them and say, you know what, I am gonna be that sacrifice that this world needs.
Gotcha. Okay, that's an interesting perspective on it. Okay. All right, let me tally up here.
1, 2, 3.
See if I actually want this.
4.
We can do this.
All right, Yoko, I've sent you the results, my friend. Drum roll.
Drum.
All right.
Drum roll, please.
Let's see. Let me get these graphics up in there. So, damn, I don't even know how to work this anymore.
We're having
Okay.
technical difficulties.
With 48 nominations, 3 Academy wins, and 2 financial failures, we have
2 financial failures. Well, so it is Groundhog Day, the winner.
I'm sorry. I mean,
Listen, here's my reasoning. I promise I'm not biased. Here's the fact of the
he
matter.
just likes me. He thinks I'm cute.
Right, yeah. No, unpopular opinion. I love her.
Cruise is
Look,
ugly.
I have a special place in my heart for both of these films, and I know that sounds weird, but I love Doug Liman. Doug Liman directed one of my all-time favorite films, and everything he did after that I'll kind of forgive because he directed Swingers. And Swingers is one of my all-time favorite pictures. And
However,
you know, he took a route that I'm so sad that he took. He took the route of these big action pictures. He did Mr. and Mrs. Smith, The Bourne Identity, Edge of Tomorrow, Jumper, American Made. American Made was actually pretty good. He took that route of cinema, and I'm kind of sad for it, but he made Swingers, and I love that film. So he's got a special place in my heart. Harold Ramis, I mean, come on, dude. It's Harold Ramis.
Ghostbusters,
a comedy
Meatballs.
giant. Unpopular opinion.
Meatballs 3.
Unpopular opinion. I love Bill Murray. I love Bill Murray for the fact for the simple fact that he made Lost in Translation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not big on his comedies, man. I'm just not.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's an asshole. I don't know if maybe because I've heard somewhere along the line that in person he's an asshole, but I just think he's an asshole, and I don't really connect.
I have
the persona he has.
Yeah,
I have the same feeling towards what is it? Will Ferrell. Like I heard one time that Will Ferrell was just like a dick to his fans and kind of had this like high and mighty persona that now when he comes out in places, it's the same thing that I just don't want.
And I throw. Don't get me wrong. There's certain films that are classics and I love, like Groundhog Day, but I kind of see Bill Murray the same way I see Chevy Chase. I love Chevy Chase, dude. I think he's fucking hilarious. The vacation movies are some of my favorite things, but he's an asshole. It's been confirmed that man is an asshole, a giant asshole. So I get it, but I, for that simple fact. So I'm not. What I'm trying to say is I'm not biased here, but Tom Cruise is one of my guys, dude, where I know why people hate him. I know why people see him and how you see him. But if you're a fan of The Outsiders like me, you see Tom Cruise in a different light. Like I do, at least. You know, I don't really see him as this. I know who he is. I know what he's doing now. But when you see him in things like Vanilla Sky and things like The Outsiders, it's like, no, this dude has actually got something on him. Like American Made, again, if you haven't seen American Made, fantastic picture. It shows you Tom Cruise can really act. Not to mention all the stunt work he does, right? But Edge of Tomorrow, for me, just it could have been another action film, and I wouldn't have cared. You know, it didn't have to have the time loop kind of foundation to it. It's what made it interesting. It's what made it entertaining, but I think it was just in that era of bad CGI action films that I kind of just dismissed Edge of Tomorrow to a certain degree.
It didn't even have bad CGI. Like,
you know, I think it was. You know, Carlos, I feel like it falls under the same category. Like, what is it called? Pacific Rim. That there's just like there's a big following for it.
Yeah.
But just because it falls under that actiony CG kind of,
I throw Pacific Rim into that same boat, dude. I love Del Toro, but I'm not gonna go watch Pacific Rim again. That's just me. Those are just my tastes.
What about part two? Huh?
I heard that part 2 is terrible. Anyways, those are just my tastes. But in terms of your debates, Delao did argue further into the fact that the film has more to show for itself. And you know, look, when it comes to the sci-fi thing, Yoko, I get you and you put it in perspective for me, but I do feel like Palm Springs is going to stand the test of time, and it's a sci-fi film, you know? Whereas Edge of Tomorrow just really went in deep into the sci-fi aspect, and maybe that's what makes it forgettable to a certain degree. So I feel like just Delao is arguing more to the fact that this film is remembered and it's appreciated because it goes into the internal struggle of the character. Whereas Edge of Tomorrow, it was a plot film. I feel it was very plot heavy and it wasn't character heavy. I would say because yes, Cruise's character takes this turn, but that's part of the plot. It's not the focus. And
Emily Blunt's character is also pretty well developed. You need to watch the movie again. You need to watch.
Maybe because I watched it in that era, right? That's how I remember it. But no, I think when it comes to the Tower Crown, it's completely subjective, and it's who argues the film better. And I think Delao made a better argument for the film.
This is my second win.
But you had more in your favor in terms of this genre, I think, Delao. And
I'm sorry,
it's the film, right?
So, it's the ultimate, yeah.
It's the one that, you know, people when they talk about time loop films, it's like, oh, it's like Groundhog Day. Yeah.
By the way, I want to talk about this film on the podcast at some point. One of my favorite films that is this time travel / time loop film is called About Time. With a fantastic British picture, and I think it simplifies the paradox of time travel and time loops.
I thought you were talking about the action film that came out with Justin Timberlake, In Time.
No, that's In Time.
No, I haven't.
I just said
about time. Sorry. Richard Curtis, a British filmmaker, it's fantastic. He did like Love Actually and all these great British pictures. But About Time is a great, simple.
It's fantastic.
Time travel, time loop film. It's really great, and I want to talk about it on this podcast at some point. So if you haven't seen it, check that film out too. But anyways, that about wraps it up for this episode of the WatchTower. We discussed Palm Springs. Go check it out, guys. Go check out these time loop films. It really is an underanalyzed genre, I feel. And it's not the genre's fault. It's just there's not that many films to analyze.
The thing is that we just barely, like in these last 5 years, we kind of started having a resurgence of all these. Yeah. Because actually there's like at least like 2 TV shows that played with the idea. One of them I really loved, which is Russian Doll on Netflix. And that's also pretty good.
Yeah,
well, the Japanese films that I had, like, because it felt like this concept had been done before Groundhog Day. It just like there was no way that they kind of hit it out of the park with that one.
Yeah,
but then, you know, like I know that if you look more into the origin, there's got to be that kind of depth behind it. You know,
it's a genre thing. I think it's fantastic. I think Palm Springs did it. I think Palm Springs set the bar for postmodern
for new ones, especially
for new films. So
definitely
fantastic. If you guys have any other films to suggest, guys, we did Lone Wolf McQuade based off of a suggestion recently. We love to hear suggestions. Let us know. We're going to be incorporating a really cool thing into this podcast and into the Towercast really soon. Really, really soon. I'm excited. I can't tell you much about it yet because Delal will kill me.
Please follow our social media pages. We're going to be updating those very soon because we're going to be doing some fun stuff. Yeah.
Some more crowd interaction. That's all I'll say. But yeah, let us know. Comment on this episode, either on YouTube, Facebook, or shoot us a message and let us know what you want us to talk about. And if you want to jump on, even it might be fun. So let us know. Watch Palm Springs. Next time we're going to be talking about Locke. If I'm not mistaken, right? That's the next pick, guys. We're talking about
Austin
Locke.
Young film.
Yeah, Austin's choice. We're going to be doing Locke. It should be fun. It should be a fun episode. So make sure to keep track on Facebook and everything to catch the polls. In the Mina Yoko Tower Productions. That's where the polls are. Vote. Help us vote. We're getting a lot more interactions, which is really exciting. So keep voting. Keep voting. Anything else, fellas?
Great film. I mean, if you thought that the time loop genre is played out, nothing you can do with it. I'm not going to watch Groundhog Day, the sequel, again. This film is going to be absolutely fantastic. It's a perfect date night, perfect, just casual watching, like really something to get out of it for everybody. So yeah,
absolutely. Yoko.
Even if not for a date night, just the comedic tones on it are just so good. Just watch it, explore it.
Austin, anything you got for Palm Springs on your end?
Watch it.
There you go. The voice of God is back.
The voice of God.
All right, cool. Thank you guys. Keep tuning in. Keep making sure to, like Delal said, social media, keeping track of that. Keep watching cinema. Keep defending home cinema like Yoko and I were talking about earlier. Collect Blu-rays, collect DVDs, and curate your cinema. Watch good cinema, please. Watch good indie films like Palm Springs. Watch
Good Schlock. Good Schlock is also pretty good.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. That about does it. Thank you guys for tuning in to the WatchTower. We'll see you next time.
Take care, bye.